with a 40 miles per hour speed limit causing delays. Congestion has started on the M4 westbound from the Prince of Wales Bridge to junction 26 Malpas. On the A50 eastbound in Wiltshire, a collision has closed a lane between the A36 and the A360. In Norfolk, all lanes are closed on the A47 westbound due to an incident. And on the trains, the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway are both experiencing major disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Dawn Neeson and you are watching Dewbs & Co. Great show coming up for you. In the next hour, Donald Trump is set to meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy imminently. Is the US President on his way to ending another deadly war? And also, of course, the story of the day. Football fans around the world have expressed horror at the decision to ban Israeli fans from travelling to an Aston Villa match. Surely it's time to lift that ban. We might hear about that in the next hour, so you don't want to miss that one. Don't want to go anywhere. And Premier League clubs are set to take the knee this weekend. Well, what delicious timing that is for the first time this season. But is it a meaningful gesture, or especially after that Aston Villa fiasco, a waste of time? And from today, 1.8 million armed forces veterans can download a new digital ID, which is being seen as a pilot scheme for Keir Starmer's mandatory digital ID app for all of us. What do you make of that one at home? And my... Brilliant panel tonight for you as well. Political commentator and Labour councillor Sebastian Salek and former Conservative Minister Tom Percival. There they are, looking gorgeous on a Friday night. But first, let's get the latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Dawn. Good evening to you. 6:15 here in the GB newsroom. The government is working to reverse a decision stopping Israeli football fans attending a game at Aston Villa next month. The Prime Minister has described it as the wrong decision, with West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner, he's calling for an immediate review. Now, Birmingham Police and council officials banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety veers after classifying the game as high risk. They also cited violence that occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam in November. The footballing policing unit, which backs the ban, says the Home Office was briefed about potential issues last week. Well, the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats have both called for the ban to be overturned.
What we want to see is the authorities cracking down. And this is why I have no faith whatsoever in what the Home Secretary said. She told me that she would, certainly on the news when I saw her, that she'd be doing everything she could. What are they doing now? She should be intervening. She should be directing the West Midlands Police. The Prime Minister should be directing them. They should show some backbone. Right now, they're just being weak.
So criticism there of the Home Secretary from the Tory leader. Well, there has been a response from Shabana Mahmood. She says this anti-Semitism is a stain on our society that shames us all. Every football fan, she says, whoever they are, should be able to watch their team in safety. This government's doing everything in our power to ensure all fans can safely attend the game. Now, we're expecting Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Donald Trump to have a meeting at the White House shortly, so keeping a close eye on Washington, D.C. The Ukrainian president expected to ask for long-range Tomahawk missiles that have the ability to strike deep into Russian territory, with Trump considering to agree to that. Now, it comes a day after Trump said great progress was made during a phone call with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, it's expected to be a lot more cordial than the pictures you're seeing on your screen right now. This is the meeting back in February in the Oval Office, when they had a very public row and Donald Trump accused Zelenskyy of gambling with World War III. We'll keep an eye on the White House and bring you that as soon as we get it here on GB News. Palestine Action will be allowed to challenge its ban under terrorism laws. The government has failed in its attempt to block a legal challenge brought by the group's co-founder Huda Amori, who can now take the case to the High Court. The Home Office ban, which came into force in July, makes membership of or support for Palestine Action a criminal offence. Manchester arena bomb maker Hashim Abedi has pleaded not guilty to the attempted murder of 3 prison officers. It follows an attack at HMP Franklin in County Durham in April. The Old Bailey heard the alleged offences had a terrorist motivation. Abedi is serving a 22-year sentence for helping his brother murder 22 people at an Ariana Grande concert in 2017. And King Charles is to become the first British monarch to pray with the Pope since the Reformation in the 16th century. The historic moment will take place at the Sistine Chapel during the King and Queen's state visit to the Vatican next week. It is being seen as a very significant moment in relations between the Catholic Church and the Church of England, of which Charles is the supreme governor. And those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 7.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome to Dewbs & Co. And the sharp-eyed might have spotted that I'm not Michelle. I am indeed Dawn Neeson. So joining me until 7 p.m. I've got a cracking panel for you, though. Political commentator and Labour councillor Sebastian Salek and former Conservative Minister Tom Purslow. Thank you very much.
See you. Good to be
See,
here.
you're looking animated now. It's a Friday night. Come on, boys. Most importantly, though, thank you for your company. We have got a really packed show for you. And as Michelle always says, this show is all about you. So get in touch, gbnews.com/your say, and join in our conversation. Now, Donald Trump is set to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House tonight, just days after announcing talks with Vladimir Putin. The US president says he wants to end the war in Ukraine, now grinding on for nearly 4 years. Blimey, can you believe that? Zelenskyy is expected to press Trump on approving long-range Tomahawk missiles, weapons capable of reaching as far as Moscow. So let's find out exactly what's going on over there in the White House. I'm joined by international journalist Hadley Gamble. Hadley, we are expecting this meeting to happen any moment now. Have you got any news for us?
Well, it's interesting to think about this in the broader context. I mean, Mr. Zelenskyy can ask for those long-range Tomahawk missiles as much as he wants, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the president of the United States is going to give them to him. He understands, of course, that that would be a game changer. And I don't think it's any surprise that he and Vladimir Putin would be having a dialogue right now. Certainly the Russians don't want the Ukrainians to have that kind of weaponry. They certainly don't want the Europeans to have that on their doorstep. But taking a step back for Vladimir Putin, he's watching President Trump essentially, taking a victory lap after the 20-point plan was passed, and they're in the first phase of this peace negotiation and ceasefire in the Middle East. This is a president on a high, and perhaps that has, pushed President Putin further toward the negotiating table, because remember, in 2023, 2024, he had an economy growing at 4% a year. That is not the case this year. It's going to have a 1%, less than 1% growth estimated by the World Bank this year, and that's going to start cutting into the bottom line for average Russians, right? They're going to have to raise taxes. They're talking about putting in a higher level of VAT. They're going to really feel the pressure even more so than they have over the last 4 years. And that could become a huge problem for him domestically. So perhaps, the idea that he could engage with President Trump over economic diplomacy, get some sweetheart deals if he comes to the table, is becoming more and more attractive to President Putin.
Now, this is the third time, I think, Zelenskyy has met Trump in the White House. The first time, obviously, didn't go that well. Relations between the two men are much better now, aren't they?
They seem to have warmed, certainly, and Vladimir Putin hasn't helped that, right? Because, President Trump came to office saying, this is a man I can do business with, I can deal with him, we can get peace because we've had a good relationship in the past. And President Putin, has not done what Mr. Trump wants him to do, which is to come to the table and cease the fighting in Ukraine. So I think that certainly his relationship with Mr. Zelenskyy has warmed, but also taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture here, he knows he's got to get both of these guys on side if he's going to put an end to this war. And this is a man, President Trump, who said again and again that all he wants to do is get a peace deal done.
Now, when Trump met Putin in Alaska, we were expecting slightly more than we got. We didn't actually get anything. All we got was a performative two men shaking hands, walking away from an airplane. But nothing was done and agreed. Now, we know there is that meeting between the higher-ups from both sides, meeting in Budapest coming up very soon. What do you think we can expect from that?
Well, certainly what was interesting, I was at the sidelines of that first meeting in Saudi Arabia between the principals, correct? This wasn't just, this wasn't the president's meeting, but this were their entire teams like Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff. And interestingly enough, along with Sergei Lavrov, you had the head of the RDIF, the Russian Direct Investment Fund, Kirill Dmitriev. Now, he's the money guy, right? He's the one that's doing all that external investing. He was at the table, and a lot of people commented on this, and there was a reason behind that. It was economic diplomacy. It was the idea that this is a president, Mr. Putin, who wants to get back in the SWIFT system. He wants to become, once again, part of the global economic picture. He wants to return to the global financial system, essentially. So he's going to try and put that at the top of his agenda. Yes, if I stop the fighting. Yes, if I get the territory in Ukraine that I want, a good buffer, then I also want to get back in the financial system. So I think what's going to be really interesting going forward is whether or not they're able to start moving on those parts of the agenda.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, I mean, Trump is on that bounce from achieving a ceasefire that nobody thought was possible between Israel and Gaza. So do you think he could work the oracle here, Hadley?
This is a man that continues to surprise. They all keep saying he can't get it done and, you know, he's all talk and no action, but actually it is about action. So the fact that he's been able to have these conversations already with President Putin is something that President Biden was simply incapable of doing from the beginning of the war until his tenure in the White House ended, gives one hope.
Brilliant. Hadley, thank you very much. That's international journalist Hadley Gamble there. And we are waiting for that meeting to start. And we will bring you a live coverage as we can. OK, well, let's have a quick chat to the panel about this one. Political commentator and Labour councillor Sebastian Salek and former Conservative Minister Tom Perskop. Let's come to you first on this one, Sebastian. Now, if anyone can, Trump can. I mean, you've got to agree with that. This could be a very positive meeting. We could actually be seeing another ceasefire. Middle East on, can you do the same with Ukraine and Russia?
Absolutely, and I think anybody of any political persuasion should be throwing their weight behind the US on this one and hoping for good news, regardless of what your views are. But let's remember, Trump is the most powerful man in the world. If anyone can make something happen, it's him. He's clearly got Putin on the back foot here. Putin is wetting the bed over these Tomahawk missiles, and why wouldn't you be? These are long-range missiles. They can reach here from Moscow, which is a terrifying thought.
Yeah,
but they can also...
thanks for that.
Yeah, happy Friday. But crucially, they can reach Moscow from Ukraine. So even if he's just dangling the prospect of these missiles, it's clearly enough to get Putin around the table. It's good to see Trump backing the right horse this time. We saw a lot of wavering from him in the past. We've seen a lot of alignment with Putin, which is quite uncomfortable. I just hope he backs the right horse here and can put all of this to an end.
OK, what do you make of it, Tom?
Well, I would agree with all of that. And I think, you know, the one thing that we've learned about Donald Trump as president is that the art of the possible has a very wide range and he is extremely unpredictable. And so probably he hasn't got a settled position even now heading into this meeting as to where he might come out on the question of Tomahawks. Exactly as has been touched on there, that is something that President Putin doesn't want to see. The only scepticism that I have is that I find myself often in agreement with the Prime Minister on this, that it does feel that President Putin doesn't want peace, and I struggle to see for him what the off-ramp is. I struggle to see what the political future for Putin looks like in the event of this conflict being over. But we should absolutely, as a collective, be pushing for peace, hoping that President Trump can make some progress. What he has achieved in the Middle East in the last 7 days, I think it's nothing short of extraordinary. We've got to hope that that same practical approach to this can also deliver results here.
I mean, Sebastian, that's the point, isn't it? We've got a ceasefire in the Middle East. We haven't got the end of the war. I mean, whether that will ever happen, who knows? It's been going on for, well, a very, very long time. But this, what does Putin get out of this? I mean, obviously he doesn't get a tomahawk up his backside. But apart from that, how are you going to divide Ukraine up? I mean, how is this going to go? We know Zelenskyy doesn't want to give any of the Ukraine up.
No, and this is again where Trump isn't quite clear. He's made a lot of noise in the past about potentially Ukraine having to give up some land, which would be a really unsavoury outcome, and I know in Britain we'd be really unhappy with that. The problem with Putin is he's a massive ego. And you've got to give him something to make this look like some kind of a success. And that, I think, will be the crucial question here, is what can you give him that he's happy with, but also that we in the West are happy to give?
Do you think there is a solution, Tom?
Again, I really struggle to see it. Because I think the lessons of history are so stark here. And that territorial integrity of Ukraine, which all of us in British politics have been really clear about, as have so many of our Western allies over the course of this conflict, but also that principle of freedom is so important. The Ukrainians have been exceptionally brave in this fight. They've thrown everything at this, and we've got to continue to have their back. And as far as I'm concerned, that isn't just a matter for the Ukrainians. This is about Western security. It is about why it is so important in this time where we have conflict on the European continent that we do invest more in defence, that we put the resources in behind that, and that we do everything that we possibly can to show Putin that he isn't going to win.
Interesting, you've both brought, I mean, you brought up the fact that the Tomahawks could get here very, very easily. Thank you very much. It's Friday night.
Scary
Thanks for cheering us all up. That. But, you know, defence spending, I mean, we keep going on about it. I mean, Sebastian, we know that the budget's coming up. We know that money is very tight. We are probably going to end up paying more taxes. There are going to have to cuts somewhere along the line. But do we need now to actually take our defence seriously and start spending more money on that?
Well, certainly we've let it go for many, many, many years, and I'm pleased to see this government getting behind that. There are other solutions, though, that don't cost money, and it's things like sanctions. And I'm really pleased to see that's happened time and time again throughout the course of this government, and I think probably the last government as well. They were very good on this issue. Just this week, we saw Rosneft and Lukoil, some of the biggest oil companies in the world, Russian oil companies, sanctioned by Britain. And it's crucial that we join those EU efforts. We seize those assets, we seize that money, and we use it to fight Putin. We use it against the man.
Is it working, Tom? Do sanctions work?
Well, I mean, I like the mood music that I've heard in the recent days from government around trying to use some of the proceeds of that sanction money to get directly to where it needs to be in this fight on this conflict, because that's precisely what we should be doing. It isn't just about what can we do in this country to support that effort. We should be practical about where those funds are, deploy them in the right way. And after all, look, US security guarantees are important if you're going to make any real progress on this, but we also have to be practical as Europeans in playing our part in making sure that our defence spending is where it should be. Have been a little bit frustrated about the fact that various other components have gone into those commitments. For example, some of the stuff around energy, some of the stuff around, for example, counter-terrorism policing in this country. We should actually be looking at defence spending lock, stock and barrel. You cannot put a monetary value on our national security, and ministers do need to look at that through that prism. But where there is that funding that has come from frozen assets, because there has been really good cross-party support around that, we should be deploying it and supporting the Ukrainians with it.
Right, just if you are joining us now, we are waiting to go live to the White House, where Donald Trump is expected to meet our Volodymyr Zelensky. We can see some movement at the front of the White House now, with the flags there coming up the driveway to the White House. This will be the third time that President Volodymyr Zelensky has been to the White House for a meeting with Trump. Obviously, the first time didn't go quite as well as could have been expected. National embarrassment, we think. So we are hoping this meeting comes after a phone call, 2-hour phone call, we believe, that Trump had with President Putin on Thursday, where they discussed what to do with the situation in Ukraine. And we are aware that Zelensky has requested Tomahawk missiles, which are long-range missiles capable of hitting, most targets in Russia. And we think that may be the reason that now Putin has agreed to a meeting coming up in Budapest between the higher-ranking Russian and American officials to finally, hopefully, maybe potentially come to a ceasefire. We don't know what's on the agenda yet, but we do know now that Zelensky is about to meet Trump and discuss where we go from this situation. It could be very positive news. Obviously, we do know that Donald Trump has achieved amazing things, regardless of what you think of his politics, amazing things in the Middle East with that ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. Whether it will hold or not, it's not peace, as we know. It is just a ceasefire, and obviously this could be the situation we are now witnessing in Ukraine. Do we get a ceasefire? Do we get peace? I mean, what is the outcome? What is the outcome that's going to keep Putin happy, Zelensky happy, and Trump happy, who is probably the one man on earth that could achieve this meeting? And you can see there now we are still waiting for Trump and Zelensky to make an appearance. We are expecting Zelensky to turn up any moment now. Sebastian, as I said, this could be a very momentous meeting again between these two men. It didn't go very well the first time round. It was embarrassing and humiliating for Zelensky. But this is a very positive meeting. It could be momentous. It could change where not just Ukraine, but the whole of Europe heads.
For sure, and I think what's really important here is that we now have an incentive for Trump. He's looking at the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's be honest, that's what he wants out of this. And frankly, if that's what it's going to take to get peace in Europe and to get peace in the Middle East, I would be quite happy to give it to him if he can do it.
Do you think, Sebastian, that he is doing it for his own ego or for world peace?
I think a lot of this is about legacy for Trump. He likes trinkets. He likes something to show for himself. You saw how well the state visit here went down for him both times. Yes. He really enjoys these things. This is nominally his last term, unless he does anything funny with the Constitution. So he's now thinking about, what do I want to be remembered for?
OK, what do you make of it, Tom? Do you think he is doing it just for his ego to get that peace prize, or do you think he does genuinely care about sorting out world peace?
So I think he really does care about legacy. There's no question about that. But one thing we also know is that he cares enormously about how he's viewed, as any politician does, by his domestic electorate, and he cares about US taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
And he will be looking at this through the prism of how much money the US has been making in terms of contributions to this conflict, trying to bring those numbers down so that he can focus on redeploying some of that funding around domestic priorities that are also important for his legacy. So I think legacy plays a lot into this on various fronts. He gets very cross, of course, that Barack Obama had very lofty recognition during his time for achievements that really aren't comparable to his that, you know, he's achieved so far. I think landing this would be a remarkable feat. As I say, I'm cautious about the pathway to achieving a durable, lasting peace, but we ought to be willing this on. The relationship with Zelensky has come on leaps and bounds over the course of recent months. Let's hope they can deliver something.
Yeah, Trump has developed the relationship with Zelensky rather well. They are now talking. They have, you know, they both can work towards sort of a peace in Europe. Where does the UK come in this? So what's our relationship like now with Trump?
Our relationship with Trump is, I think it's been good. And I think this is an area that Starmer has really excelled. He spent a lot of time flying around the world. Well, of course. You saw him in that meeting when he pulled out the letter and he got the state visit. That was a triumph. That was one of those moments you can look back on the front page of every newspaper in Britain and there was praise across the board.
OK, right. We've got a guest joining us now, our defence editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Robert, thank you very much for joining us. Robert, this could be a momentous meeting. We are waiting for Donald Trump and Zelensky to meet at the White House. What are you feeling about this meeting? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, when I took my COVID and flu inoculation the other day, I tried to get an inoculation against words like historic, iconic and momentous. I think this is very difficult. This is going to be a tricky meeting in an almost reverse way from the debacle in the first meeting, which you've alluded to, between Zelensky and Trump when Trump got back into office. Zelensky wants an awful lot, as your panel has been explaining. Trump knows he can't give it to them. In a way, the tomahawk argument is not really about a weapon of war, it's about a totem. He's not going to get them. Trump has more or less told him he's not going to get them. It's not because he doesn't want to annoy Putin in this. America can barely afford it. And actually, in a strange way, it's not quite the weapon that the Ukrainians want. I just want to correct you, panel, in that they've got their own weapons that can do 1,500 kilometres up to 2,000 kilometres, and they're getting in there. But they want a lot more of it and a lot more support in hardware and money from the allies, and they hope that they will get a following wind, at least sympathy from America. But the key thing is Europe. And as I think you've heard, the really worrying thing is that Putin, for all the talk about talk, the way he's configured, he's not in a mood for stopping the war, because the war actually, curiously, is the thing that keeps him in power.
I was going to say, Robert, can he afford to stop the war? I mean, you know, as soon as this war stops...
Personally, he can't. Personally, he can't. Because he hasn't got a victory. And
so what is... Sorry. So what is the end game, Robert?
The end game is very, very difficult to discern. Putin thinks that he can break through just by force, numbers. The Ukrainians are having a great difficulty with personnel. Calling up enough people, they're exhausted, and reserves. They're still holding the line more or less, whatever the reports are, and the blogosphere is full of claims and counterclaims. But honestly, they haven't really gained that much more territory. And Ukraine has an advantage in that it is striking into the energy network and resources to quite a significant degree at the moment. If they had Tomahawk missiles, I agree, it would accelerate that process. But actually, the latest military appraisal is that the Tomahawks aren't a game changer.
So can Zelensky come out of this meeting with Donald Trump with the answers that he wants?
He won't get the full the full menu, the full smorgasbord, as it were. He will want to believe that he has the sympathy, if not support, of Trump, which hasn't always been there. And I think a curious thing has been happening within the Republican Party in Congress, where the mood has been steadily but slowly shifting back towards Zelensky and Ukraine. The bulk of a lot of the polls are saying there is more and more sympathy for Ukraine and the position that it is taking. This is a long haul. What, as your guests have been saying, what Zelensky has got to agree with Trump is a negotiating position so that at least they can get the talk really working. And they really want a ceasefire within the next few weeks or the next few months.
I mean, it has been... sorry, Robert, it has been going on for 4 years now, which is quite an astonishing length of time. I mean, we go through phases, certainly in the UK, where we get weary of even talking about it.
Yes, that's the problem. And I'm actually more critical from what I've heard from your panel about the Starmer government's posturing on foreign affairs and defence. They've talked an awful lot. I can be really crude, a hell of a lot. They've produced glossy things. They've said they've agreed to this, that and the other. But what have they actually delivered in defence reform in nearly 18 months in part? No, I'm exaggerating. It's about 14, 15 months. It's very, very little indeed. The army is short of ammunition. Recruiting is only just building up. The building programs for the Navy are way, way off on the horizon, and a lot of what we've got is not working.
I mean, Robert, the surprising factor, it's stunning, horrible, shocking fact I keep coming back to it, is we have more civil servants in the MOD than we actually have infantry, military.
No, we've got a new Wizzo department which tells us how to buy properly, which they haven't been doing for years. Right. But most... that department, the National Armaments Directorate, is 27,000, which is slightly more than the entire Royal Navy. And they're proud of it.
But how is that helping? How is that helping? You know, this situation is very fragile. The meeting today, we don't know what's going to come out of it. When we have our Trump meeting Putin in Budapest, we don't know what's going to come out of that. Talking about that meeting, Robert, what do you think is going to come out of that? How hopeful are you that anything will come out of it?
Well, if it's like Alaska, both sides will think that they have won, particularly Putin. What happened in Alaska is that they were talking past each other, and I'm afraid I fear that that's what might happen this time, where they think that they've got an understanding. They're about a different game altogether. And I really don't see Putin abandoning his war aims for the reason stated. For without a clearly stated or signalled victory to the Russian people, I don't think he feels he can stop, nor do those immediately around him.
We think we are important still, the United Kingdom. I mean, we're sort of like, done a bit in the past. And are we still important on the world stage? Oh, hold on, Robert. I think we can go now live to the White House. I think we do have Donald Trump actually on the porch there of the White House waiting for Zelensky. We can see the car driving up there. And yes, I think we can see Zelensky getting out of the car now and shaking hands with Trump. On the porch of the White House, there are the two flags of the respective countries behind them. Zelensky in his usual quick pat on the back there, quick hug from Trump to Zelensky. Zelensky in his usual military outfit. The two men are now walking into the White House to hopefully have a very fruitful discussion. We are not sure, we were talking to Bev Turner earlier on, we're not sure whether the press will have access to that, but if we do, we will certainly bring you all the live developments as and when we get them. Bev Turner is there for us, so we will be bringing you that. So please do stay with us. OK, right, OK. Well, Tom, let's come to you first on this one. I mean, they are there now. The meeting has started. How is this? We don't know how it's going to go. It's a really stupid question, Dawn, but what do you think we're going to get out of it? Is it actually a meeting that's just performative, or can it achieve something?
Well, I hope that it just helps to further improve that relationship, further build on that relationship, further build on that purpose, that joint purpose of trying to bring this war to a conclusion.
You've been in politics for a long time, Tom. How important is that personal relationship?
Oh, it's massively important. It is massively important. And I think actually one of the things I was going to touch on the back of that interview just then, is that the values that we share with the Ukrainians are so important in this. And I think that that is reflected in the fact that they're meeting. That will underpin the conversation that is had. That stands in very stark contrast to the Russians. When you look at a lot of their methods of warfare, they are very traditional relative to our standards and the way in which we approach this. And effectively, you are up against a war machine that is willing to throw endless men to their deaths. And it's almost an endless supply. Putin doesn't care. And I think that that is absolutely chilling. We must stand against that. That is what that meeting is about. It is about bringing this to an end, upholding our values that matter in this country, that matter in the US, that matter in Ukraine. That is what this fight is about. So I hope that on the back of this, the relationship will be improved, that Zelenskyy will have the opportunity to land those asks that he's got. We may not see immediate resolution of that, but that hopefully then does lead to meaningful action down the line, including trying to bring Putin back round the table again to try and improve the situation and move it on.
Well, let's hope so. Right, OK, we have to interrupt that particular story. We've got some breaking news for you, and Prince Andrew is set to give up all his royal titles. And this is according to the Telegraph newspaper. It follows a string of scandals, including his association with Jeffrey Epstein and alleged involvement in the Chinese spy scandal. It is understood he will put all his titles in abeyance, having come under huge pressure from the King. Wow, OK, what do we make of that one, panel? I mean, Sebastian, we know this has been going on for a long time. I mean, Prince Andrew, Virginia Dewberry, one of the victims in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, has got a book coming out posthumously. Obviously, she's no longer with us. That was pretty damning on Prince Andrew again, and now he's given his titles up.
I think it's about time. Whenever there's a dodgy story, Prince Andrew has his fingerprints all over it. It's not a good look for the royal family. This is a family that lives and dies on popular opinion. There is no certainty that they will always continue to exist. They have to keep people on side. He's not a popular man with any of us, Prince Andrew, and I think distancing themselves from him in public is the right thing to do.
Do you think this taints the whole royal family?
I think it does by association. And that's unfortunate because there are lots of good people. There are a lot of very effective royals at work for us at the moment. I think the royal family is in a really good place, which wasn't always guaranteed after the death of Queen Elizabeth because it was a very unknown time for all of us. She was very popular. We didn't know how it was going to play out. But having him there, having the ghost at the feast is unhelpful. Every time he shows up, the cameras are there. Not a great look for the royal family.
Do you think maybe it's time just to get rid of a lot of them?
No, do you know what? I've completely changed my mind on this one.
Oh, really?
Growing up, I was a proper Republican growing up. And as I've grown into an adult and moved my way through the world, I've really understood the value of having a royal family, both in terms of British soft power. You look at channels like CNN, they've got their own royal correspondents. The Americans want to talk about us. All of a sudden, we're relevant again. But also from a democratic perspective. You've seen Trump do democratically questionable things. You've seen many other leaders do them because there's nobody above them. I think it's really valuable that we have a respected, non-political figure who stands above all politics and keeps people in check.
Really interesting. OK, Tom, I mean, this had to happen, didn't it? I mean, not only, obviously, the Epstein thing and Virginia Dewberry's book, which is incredibly heartbreaking, considering she's no longer with us, she took her own life, but the Chinese spy scandal as well. I mean, if there's an unsavoury character, Prince Andrew appears to have been friends with them.
It was a completely unsustainable position, wasn't it? You just couldn't continue to have this drip feed of story after story after story. And I agree that it undermines the integrity of the royal family and that global perception. And also, just, you know, having seen the royal family a bit in my political life, that important, as you say, way in which it acts as a check and balance within our democracy, that is something that we should be proud of. And also the enormous charitable contribution the royal family make, that important representative nature of the role in terms of our global brand that attracts people to this country. The tourist value is enormous. This just couldn't carry on like this.
OK, if you are just joining us, by the way, the breaking news for you is Prince Andrew is set to give up all his royal titles, and this is according to the Telegraph newspaper, breaking right now. It follows that string of scandals, including his association with Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, the latest alleged involvement in the ongoing Chinese spy scandal, which has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks now, that collapsed trial. It is understood all the titles have been put in abeyance and have come under huge pressure from the King to do so. OK, that is breaking news from the Telegraph happening right now. OK, let's get the take of Charlotte Griffiths. Oh, OK, no, Charlotte isn't ready. We will be going to Charlotte Griffiths, a royal correspondent, on that story, because it is an important story and it really does make a difference. Right, I think we are going to take a very quick break now, are we?
Crash Law 24 sponsors GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M8 between junctions 24 and 27 has a 40 miles per hour speed limit due to maintenance, causing possible delays. The M4 westbound is congested from the Prince of Wales Bridge to junction 26 Malpas. In Derby,
Yeah, welcome back. We are now going straight live to the White House, where US President Donald Trump is meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
And I think we're making great progress. So we're going to be talking about that today. We'll be talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin. And I think that things are coming along pretty well. It began with Alaska, where I think certain guidelines were discussed, and we want to see if we can get this done. This was long ago into the Biden administration. I came here and we inherited this, and we'd like to see if we could finish it, end it. We want it ended. So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended. So I just want to thank you all very much. If you have a couple of questions, go ahead, please. In fact, before I do that, let me just ask the President to say a few words. Thank you, President.
Pleasure. Glad to meet you again, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the invitation. Again, my congratulations with your successful ceasefire in the Middle East.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you did it, and I think this is a momentum to finish Russia's war against Ukraine. I think that, yes, we understand that Putin is not ready. I think not ready, but I think that I'm confident that with your help we can stop this war, and we really need it. We see that they don't have successful steps on the battlefield, and it's good. I think that their army is weak now, but a lot of losses. Good. I think that their army is weak now, but a lot of losses. They have a lot of losses, and in economy and people, and I think this is very important moment. And I wanted to thank you, Mr. President, after our phone calls. Yesterday I had a good opportunity to meet with the big American energy companies, and they're ready to help us. Yes, after all these attacks on our infrastructure, Russian attacks, and etc. And I had also meetings, thanks to your team. We had meetings with a good military companies. We spoke about air defense, and I want to share it after with details where we are. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Very good. And I think it looks beautiful in his jacket.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I hope people notice. It's a good. It's actually very stylish. I like it. Yeah, please go ahead.
Under the Biden administration, the White House was fearing of a possible escalation. They were not allowing the Ukrainians to strike into Russia. Allow Ukrainians to strike deep into Russia.
We're going to be talking about that. That's something we'll be talking about. You're right. It's an escalation, but we'll be talking about that.
Mr. President, President Zelenskyy joined you in Hungary to meet President Putin?
Because it's a leader that we like. We like Viktor Orban. He likes him. I like him. It's a country that's a safe country. Done a very good job. He's been a very good leader in the sense of running his country. It doesn't have a lot of the problems that other countries have. And so we've decided that we'll be going to be with Viktor Orban, and he will, I think he'll be a very good host.
President Trump, President Trump, President Trump, right here.
It's
President Trump.
Hungary, yeah. We're doing Hungary, yeah.
With Putin, trilateral meeting, or is it just you and Putin?
To be determined, but I would say most likely it's going to be a double meeting. It'll be a double meeting, but we will have the President, Zelensky, in touch. There's a lot of bad blood with the two presidents, and I'm not speaking out of turn when I say it. It's a very difficult situation. You know, we just settled the war, and after thousands of years, I guess. People say anywhere from 500 to 3,000 years, and I was in rooms, as you saw, because you were with me, a lot of you were with me last week, with leaders that didn't like each other, but they were able to get along. These two leaders do not like each other, and we want to make it comfortable for everybody. So one way or the other, we'll be involved in threes, but it may be separated.
President Trump, President Trump.
Was he what? Where are you from?
From Ukraine. He actually had a
Okay, good.
conversation with me.
Good, yeah.
What if President Putin doesn't agree to peace in Hungary? What do you do then? Do you have...
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, you know, what if? I think he will. I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelensky wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
President Trump, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. And although I love asking you questions, today my question is for President Zelensky of Ukraine.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Our President Zelensky, President Trump, just brokered a peace deal in the Middle East that all Americans, both sides of the aisle, are very proud of. But to meet that deal, both sides had to make concessions. Our president has stuck out his neck in many ways to make a peace deal for your war as well. What specific concessions are you willing to make to end this war with Russia? Will you give up joining NATO? Americans have foreign war fatigue, and our president, as he said, we need our Tomahawks too.
To me?
Yes, you, President Zelensky.
Thank you very much.
That's some question. Right?
So many questions in one. Thank you very much for your question. First of all, I think we need to sit and speak. The second point, we need ceasefire. Even now, you see in the Middle East, it's very difficult to hold ceasefire. Everywhere, in every war, it's very difficult. We want peace. Putin doesn't want. That's why we need pressure on him. We will speak with President today what we need. We understand what we need to push Putin to negotiation table. And as I said previously, so we are ready to speak in any kind of format, bilateral, trilateral, doesn't matter. Matter just peace. This is important. And we don't speak about NATO or NATO. For Ukrainians, it's very important. Of course, it's our decisions of allies to decide where we are.
But are you willing to give
Yes,
up
but the
NATO?
most important thing for people in Ukraine, which are under each day's attacks, to have really strong security guarantees. NATO is the best, but weapon is very important. Allies on our side is very important, and between us, for us, bilateral security guarantees between me and President Trump is very important. I don't know, we didn't speak with details about it, but this is the most important document because the United States is very strong.
Sir, President Trump, you are the middleman right now, hoping to end this conflict. Who is doing a better job negotiating, President Zelensky or President Putin?
I think they're both doing a great job in that sense. We have to get it done. We've got to take some of the hatred of each other. You know, they don't like each other. I say that in front of President Zelensky, but I say it in front of President Putin too. They have tremendous bad blood. It really is what is holding up, I think, a settlement. I think we're going to get it done, and we have to make it long-lasting. As I said, in the Middle East, everlasting, right? Everlasting. And the Middle East is a much more complicated situation. You know, we had 59 countries involved, and every one of them agreed. And it's, you know, it's sort of amazing. Most people didn't think that was doable. This is going to be something I really believe that's going to get done. I had a very good talk yesterday with President Putin. I think he wants to get it done.
And President Zelensky, right behind you. When we were in Israel with President Trump earlier in the week, we heard a lot about the difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Joe Biden before him. What do you see as the biggest difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Biden?
President Trump has a big chance now to finish this war. President Biden now is not the president, so he doesn't have a chance to finish this war. And President Trump is really showed for the world that he can manage ceasefire in Middle East, and that's why I hope that he will do this, and we will also have such big success. For Ukraine, it's a big chance, and I hope that President Trump can manage it.
I would say the biggest difference, extremely competent, and the other one is grossly incompetent.
Sir, a few weeks ago in New York when you two met, you said that you think Ukraine could ultimately take back all the territory that it's lost so far. Do you still think that's the case, or do you think there'll have to be some sort of
You
swap
never
of
know.
territories?
Look, you know, war is very interesting. You never know, do you? You just never know. With war and peace, but you never know. Please.
Russia calls Tomahawk supply to Ukraine as an escalation, yet it continues using similar cruise missiles like Caliber. And
Yeah. Who are you with? Who are you with? You Ukraine?
Yeah.
Good.
But Russia continue even using the cruise missiles and also nuclear-capable ballistic missiles in Ukraine since 2022. So do you consider providing Ukraine with the Tomahawk or similar missiles as an opportunity to equalize the possibilities of Ukraine and Russia and push Moscow to the negotiation
Yeah,
table?
sure. We're going to be talking about that. That's why we're here. Okay? Fair question. Exactly as he told you to say it, but we're going to be talking about it. Okay? Yeah, please.
Mr. President, message to India and Hungary who is still refusing.
You said India and Hungary? That's an interesting.
And Hungary.
India and Hungary. It's an interesting combination.
Refuse to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, India is not going to be buying Russian oil anymore. And Hungary is sort of stuck because they have one pipeline that's been there for years and years and years, and they're inland. They don't have sea. They don't have sea. And I spoke with the very great leader of Hungary, and they are, you know, it's very hard for them to get oil. I understand it. Hungary's in a very interesting position because they can't have ports. You know, they're surrounded by land. So we'll see what happens there. But India will not be buying oil from Russia. And they've already de-escalated, and they've more or less stopped. They're pulling back. They bought about 38% of the oil, and they won't be doing it anymore.
Mr. President Trump has been helping you in achieving peace in Ukraine.
Who has?
First Lady Melania Trump
Yeah.
has been helping in returning abducted Ukrainian children from Russian captivity. President Zelensky, do you appreciate those efforts? How do you assess them? And did you ask her to step in and to help you?
No, she wanted to do it. She's felt very strongly about the children, and she's done a really good job, I think, in bringing it to the fore. You know, we have a lot of children involved. Now, it's some people say it's 20,000, and some people say it's 300. There's a big difference between that, so nobody really knows. But she felt very strongly about the children. She thinks about the children all the time.
President Trump, if you okay Tomahawks to Ukraine, what's going to happen if the United States is in a conflict and we need the Tomahawks? Do we have enough?
That's a problem. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other things that we've been sending over the last 4 years to Ukraine. We've been, you know, we gave them a lot. Now we have a different situation. We send it to the European Union. They pay for it and all that, and they have plenty of money. But it's beyond the money. You know, we need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. And one of the reasons we want to get this war over is exactly that. It's not easy for us to give. You're talking about massive numbers of very powerful weapons. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about. Hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about Tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Just to understand. So for today, of course, we want to finish this war, but the war is another technological war. You don't use just Tomahawks. If you want to target a military goal, you need thousands of drones. It goes together with such missiles. Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have Tomahawks. That's why we need Tomahawks. But the United States is a very strong production, and the United States has Tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles. But they can have our thousands of drones. That's why where we can work together, where we can strengthen American production.
And so just so that I understand, so you're suggesting kind of a trade. If President Trump okays Tomahawk missiles to help you launch...
Yes, it's about
Russia,
military goals. It's only about military goals.
Right, but then you would authorize some kind of an exchange where...
Yes, of course. Yes, we have proposition. Yeah, we have brief proposition with our drones.
President Trump, I don't mean to be brokering an arms deal here, but is that something that you would be interested in, Ukrainian drones?
Yeah, we would. We have a lot of drones right now. We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others. And they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war. I will say, there's nothing like the jets. You know, we knocked out a lot of drones in Israel. We were knocking them out for Israel, and we were doing it with extremely fast and powerful jets, following the drones and knocking the hell out of them. So, it's, you know, we know a lot about the drones, and we know a lot about the great jets, the great ones. The ones, well, and the B-52s, which were totally they were stealth. They were undetectable. So we have a lot of different weapons. And, you know, I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen. In war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about Tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need Tomahawks, would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, you know, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people, Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. I mean, mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it. But I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done. And I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelenskyy wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done. Now all they have to do is get along a little bit.
Can you give us an update on the trade negotiations with China, or perhaps Secretary Bessent?
Yeah, I will, and I'm going to let Scott do that. But I think we're doing very well. I think we're getting along with China. China would like to have something as of this moment. We'll be meeting in a couple of weeks. We'll be meeting in South Korea.
You think
myself.
Will go forward?
I think so. It looks like it's going forward. I think so. They want to meet. We like to meet. I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and we're going to see what happens. But, you know, for years we were taken advantage of by China very badly. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year to China. We really built their military, if you think about it. The kind of money that presidents allowed to be lost to China was just insane. And then when I came into office, as you know, I put very severe tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my first term from China. Biden let that go because it was so much. He let it continue. but he gave all sorts of exceptions. And by the time you looked at it, Scott, I would say it wasn't the same thing. He would give an exception for anything. If you got up and went out to dinner, he'd give you an exception. So it wasn't the same thing. But I put on very serious tariffs, and we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I left office. The election was rigged. I left office, and that was the story. Now I come back, and we are in a very strong position because of tariffs. We're in a very powerful position because of the fact that we have tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be in a very weak position. We would be in a weakened state. But with tariffs, we've made hundreds of billions of dollars, not only from China, but from others. And China wants to talk, and we like talking to China. So we have a very good relationship, and we're going to be meeting in South Korea in a couple of weeks. And I just got back from a long trip. I'm going on another long trip. And Scott, you want to say a few words on that, please?
Yes, sir. So the entire relationship stems from the great perspective the two leaders have for each other. China did a substantial, unprovoked escalation last week. We were unable to get in touch with them. Since then, it's been IMF World Bank Week. They have had working level people here who there have been meetings. The Vice Premier, who is my counterpart, and I will be speaking this evening at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then he and I and a delegation will meet in Malaysia probably a week from tomorrow to prepare for the two presidents to meet. So I think that things have de-escalated. We hope that China will show the respect that we have shown them. And I am confident that President Trump, because of his relationship with President Xi, will be able to get things back on a good course. Is the hope for that meeting with you and President Xi some kind of trade deal then, or
could be
more?
Look, I think we're in a very strong position. We're getting, as you know, as of November 1st, I could move it up if I wanted, a 100% tariff over and above what we get now. So that would make it about 157%. And China doesn't want that, and they want to talk, and we're talking. And I think we'll make a deal that will be good for both. I think we will do something. But you have to understand, we never got anything from China. It was a one-way street. For many years, for decades, it was a one-way street. And they became rich because of the United States. And frankly, presidents that, let's be nice, they didn't know. They just didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening to them. But I understood it. I understood it long before I ran for politics. I used to watch in amazement at how stupid our country was, how stupid they were. And we're not stupid anymore. And that includes with the European Union, that includes with Japan and South Korea. All we want to do is be treated fairly. But the fairly is hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars coming into the United States. And it's our national security is secure because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would have no national security. So it's very important.
Will you seek China's help in ending the war in Ukraine? Do you need them to put pressure on Russia?
I'll be discussing that, but I'd love to see it ended before that.
President,
I mean, I think we have a chance of ending the war quickly if flexibility is shown on behalf. And again, we're not losing people. The United States is not. We're not losing people. We're not spending money. We're getting paid for the, ammunition and missiles and everything else that we're sending to the European Union, but to NATO. But it's very similar. If you look at the countries, I mean, it's very similar. And we just made a very fair trade deal with the European Union, and what we wanted, and we made a very good deal with NATO too. They pay for all of this. That's not what we're in this for. We're in it to save thousands of lives every week. Thousands and thousands of lives. That's why we're in it. And I think we have a very good chance of bringing this war to a conclusion.
Vice President, and your cabinet has done honestly an excellent job. I think that a lot of people could agree to that.
Thank you.
I'm speaking as someone who lost my father in a war, so I know the human cost. What would your advice be to American leaders, to world leaders, to neocons, to TV hosts who often speak about conflict in abstract or strategic terms rather than the human cost and the human terms? like
Look,
you have.
my only statement is we have to get together. It's a very small group of people. It's the president, and the president. Okay, 3 presidents. And I'm the mediator president. And I'm mediating not an easy situation. It should be easy, but it's a lot easier when people understand each other, when they get together, and when they like each other. We don't necessarily have that situation as far as like is concerned. Maybe it can turn around, maybe it can. But in the meantime, we'll have them keep a little bit of distance, and we're going to see if we can get it done. This is number 9, okay? This will be number 9 for me. I've solved 8, including the Middle East. I've solved 8. This, I thought, would have been among the easiest. We solved, President Putin mentioned yesterday Armenia, you know, all of the different wars. He said it was amazing.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Neeson and welcome to GB News Tonight. We have just been covering Donald Trump live in the White House with President Zelensky, where the discussion is ending the war. Zelensky saying, I think we can end the war. Long-range missiles, we've been discussing the Tomahawk missiles, would be an escalation, says Trump. And the Hungary summit is not likely to see face-to-face meeting between Zelensky and Putin. That will be Putin and Trump. We have to get it done, Trump says, of